Hey, one more thing before you go. Welcome to another episode of Over the Teacup Sunday, where Diane and I are going to continue to take a deep dive into the world of the 2023 Oscar nominated films and talent. Today, we take a look at Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. It's a mind bending science fiction film that takes the audience on a thrilling ride through multiple dimensions, timelines, and realities. I'm your host, Michael Hurst. I'm here with my lovely co host and wife, Diane.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome to One More Thing Before You Go, Over the Teacup Sunday. Hey, Diane.
Hey, Michael.
Listen, I am very, very, very proud of us, first of all, because we have been able to really get the handle on watching a majority of what the Oscar nominated films are so far.
I know it's crazy. I don't think we've done this in a number of years.
We must be living in another dimension.
Must be
I,
sort of
I
like,
think so. Yeah, it is. I think that it's been enjoyable because we've been able to kind of watch films that we may or may not have really wanted to watch in the first place,
yeah,
and it kind of opened our eyes up, I think, to some more um, entertainment, drama, laughter, tears,
yeah,
reality.
yeah. This movie though. I had always wanted to see this one since first seeing it advertised. Wasn't really expecting it to be so
Bizarre.
crazy, bizarre, and but cool all at once. It is. Ugh,
You
it's a
know,
great movie.
it's interesting because it's won so many other awards outside of the Oscars that they've got to win something in the Oscars because they've won Golden Globes, they've won SAG awards, they've won DGA awards, they've won. I mean, there's so many other awards that they're already winning. I'm hoping that it doesn't exclude them from the Oscars because they absolutely deserve it. And I know that there's a few little secrets that we're going to discuss during this review. Hopefully, all of you out there have seen this movie. If you haven't seen it, you really need to go see it.
Go see it.
Um, if I remember right, I forgot where we watched it, but we got to watch it. Was it Peacock? Oh,
Uh,
HBO Max.
it might have been HBO Max. I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Either way, if you haven't seen it yet, you really need to see it. But we're going to enlighten you about this is a bizarre but a very, very fantastic movie. And in reality, I think that the possibility of this actually existing um, is like right there.
You think?
Well, absolutely. I mean, look, the Matrix started it all.
That's
It
true.
got us thinking that the possibility exists that we're actually living in this type of a world with different dimensions and different opportunities. And these guys took it to the next level. Let me tell everybody about it.
Mhm.
It was written and directed by the dynamic duo of Dan Kwan and Daniel Scheinert. They're best known for their work on Swiss Army Man, which is a very bizarre movie. Our oldest daughter got me into watching that, and let me tell you, it's really kind of
I've never heard of that one.
it stars Daniel Radcliffe, and I can't tell you the other guy's name off the top of my head, but you know that this is a whole different movie review, but
Right.
it's very bizarre. It's about a guy that's stranded on a desert island, and a body washes up, and the body that washes up is Daniel Radcliffe. We don't know how he died, how he got in the water, how he got to the island,
Hmm.
and the superpower that he's got is even though he's dead, he can talk to this guy.
Hmm.
It's really crazy. So they obviously have it down for delving into the bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've also done The Death of Dick Long, which I've not watched. The film features an ensemble cast. This film features an ensemble cast led by Michelle Yeoh, who plays an exhausted Chinese American woman who can't seem to finish her taxes. We've all been there. And finds herself thrust into a cosmic adventure beyond her wildest dreams when an interdimensional rupture unravels reality. She then becomes an unlucky hero who must channel her newfound powers to fight bizarre and bewildering dangers from the multiverse as the fate of the world hangs in the balance, and it's up to her to save it. with
Mhm.
stunning visual effects and a story that explores themes of identity, destiny, and the power of human connection. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once is a cinematic experience that will leave you both breathless and contemplative
And a little confused.
and a little confused.
A little.
So there you have a movie review right at the beginning of the conversation. Um, it's, we watched this a little bit ago, but it's still fresh in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I actually want to see it again. And I don't
Yeah.
see movies. I usually don't want to see movies more than once. I mean,
No, not really.
a movie for me to want to watch it more than once.
Yeah, yeah, it's very unusual for you to be able to do that.
Mm.
Um, as I said earlier, it stars Michelle Yeoh, who we know from, I'll give you her credits in a second. Huy Quan, James Hong, Stephanie Hsu, Jamie Lee Curtis, and a whole list of ensemble cast that's really, really good. Michelle Yeoh is we know her from like the Witcher, Blood Origin, if you watch that. The School for the Good and Evil, which I just started watching. She's really good. Shang-Chi and the Legends of the Ten Rings, which
So good.
that's an outstanding movie as well.
Love that movie.
Yes, very much so. She was in Gunpowder Milkshake, which is also an excellent movie. A couple of Star Trek movies: Crazy Rich Asians, Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume Two, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and I mean her resume goes back like 59 times. She's got 59 different credits, along with 11 upcoming episodes. Stephanie Hsu, we first met her in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and
Oh,
The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, but her credits also include Poker Face, which is something we've got to start watching.
yeah, yeah,
Kung Fu Panda, The Dragon Knight, Shang-Chi and the Legend. So she was Legend of the Ten Rings. She was in that with Michelle.
mhm,
And she's got more than 35 projects under her belt as well, with 5 upcoming. Ki Hugh Kwan, you probably remember we first met him when second. You probably first met him when he was playing Short Round,
mhm.
the character in Short Round in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. He's the Asian guy that basically got Indiana out of a whole bunch of mess and problems.
A little kid. He
He's
was
a
a kid.
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what I remember that movie is him taking off driving, and he had taped blocks on his feet so
Mhm.
that he could reach the gas pedals and the brake.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, and then, of course, he was the little inventor kid in The Goonies, one of my favorite all time movies. He starred in as Jasper Kwong in the sitcom Head of the Class. He was in Encino Man with
Brendan Fraser.
Brendan Fraser. Thank you. Who was nominated for The Whale. We still have to watch that, but we haven't had the opportunity to yet. Um, he kind of stopped acting for lack of opportunity in the late 90s. And then because he gave up, and we've seen him in several interviews where he just basically said, I don't think I'm meant for this. I'm done with this. And he got this script and I put that in his hand, and he kind of went, I think this is, he manifested this. He told his wife, this is, I think, what I want. Um, if I remember right, his wife really, really helped him manifest this to come to fruition. I think
Yeah.
we saw that in CBS Sunday Morning and a couple other interviews where he credits her with the fact that it's like, don't give up. This is your part.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, um, he won a Golden Globe for. He was nominated for an Oscar. He's got about 15 credits prior to this, and he's got some upcoming projects as well because of this. So I'm very happy for him. I really
I
liked
do.
him.
Yeah. He seems like a really good guy, and in his interviews, he gets very emotional about it,
He does.
about what he went through in the business. Auditioning and auditioning and auditioning, and sometimes feeling like that, like he did it, like he was
Yeah.
going to get a call, and then and 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks, a month, and no call, and for years this happened to
Yeah.
him.
And he finally
So
just gave up.
he started working behind the camera, which, because he still wanted to have a part of it. And so he was a stunt coordinator, I guess, for a lot of movies.
Yeah, it's interesting, and we'll talk about this when we get into the movie. But I didn't realize that he pretty much knew some martial arts
Hmm.
very well, actually.
Hmm.
Um, and he applies this within the movie. You will see it, and you'll see that he has broadened his expertise in acting. You can see that he's got a bigger definition of himself as an actor, and
Hmm.
because this, I mean, this movie, I don't know if you classify it as a comedy or drama or dramedy, because it's got
It's
some,
it's everything.
yeah,
It's
it's got,
everything all
it's
at
got,
once. I mean, that's why the title, because there's
yeah.
just so much going on.
So it's he really shows his acting chops, as they say,
Mhm.
in the middle of this. He's also obviously working with a stellar cast, and everybody is here has been in the industry for ages. James
Mhm.
Hong, everybody would recognize James Hong. You look at James Hong and you would recognize him. What blows
Yeah,
me away is that James Hong is like 94, 95 years old. He's still working in the business. He's got over 600 credits to his name,
that's
and
insane.
it's insane. But you
Hmm.
see him in everything, and for 94, he looks great.
He does. I'd say he looks like he's in his 70s.
Well, one of my favorite movies with him is Big Trouble in Little China.
I know. Hmm.
You know, that's one of my favorite movies in him. He's always about 80, 75 or 80% of the time he's playing a bad guy.
Yeah.
He's either part of the Chinese mafia, or
Hmm.
the Japanese mafia, or something along that line. A lot of it is that, but he plays it really, really well.
He does.
Um,
He's a he can be a scary bad guy.
yeah. And
Hmm.
he's actually been in several movies that were nominated for an Oscar. Love is the Many Splendid Thing, 1955. The Sand Pebbles, 1966. That was with Steve McQueen. Chinatown, 1974, with Jack Nicholson. Bound for Glory, 1976. He's appeared in films that have been selected for National Film Registry by the Library of Congress. I think four of them. For
Oh,
being culturally, historically, and rustically significant, like Flower Drum Song in 1961, um, Airplane, 1980, Blade Runner, 1982. As I've said already, he's got like 600, more than 600 acting credits. And at 94, he's the eldest Asian star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He actually is 31 years older than the Hollywood Walk of Fame itself.
wow.
And he finally just recently got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Wow.
Well deserved.
Yeah,
Well
for sure.
deserved. And of course, Jamie Lee Curtis, as we all know, is the daughter of
Mhm.
legendary actor Janet Leigh and Tony Curtis. Tony, we had the pleasure of meeting and kind of partying with when he had him at our screenwriting conferences in Las Vegas way back
Yeah,
when.
he was
We
so
honored
nice.
him.
But he was a
She's
really, really sweet guy.
He is. She's best known for Halloween, the Halloween series, and
Mhm.
subsequent film series afterwards. Trading Places, 1983. Fish Called Wanda, 1988. One of my favorite movies. Knives Out. And she's got more than 80 credits to her name and has a bunch of credits that are upcoming.
What was
So,
the what was the one where she was with Arnold Schwarzenegger? I
oh, True Lies. Yeah, she was
Lies.
in True Lies as well. I forgot
Yeah.
about True Lies. Yeah, I love True Lies too. Yeah. Uh, and yeah, if you guys haven't seen True Lies, you need to see it for sure. Same thing with Trading Places. Trading Places, she's good with that. And A Fish Called Wanda, you need to see that as well. It's a lot more in depth than and what's the one? Freaky Friday.
Freaky Friday. Yeah.
Freaky Friday with my
Lindsay Lohan.
brain, Lindsay
Lindsay
Lohan.
Lohan. Hmm.
Yeah, classic. I mean, classic movie. So she's
She's
been in the business forever.
she's just so good in
Hmm.
everything she does. And
We
hands,
watched her in a series too, and
huh?
it's been a while, so I don't remember the. I honestly don't remember the name of the series. It was directed by the guy that did Glee. It had one of the Jonas Brothers in it, and a slew of
Oh,
other.
Scream Queens.
Yeah, Scream Queens. That was it. Scream Queens. She was
Forgot
also
about
in that. Yeah,
that was good. Now
yeah.
she just seems like such a even though she's been in the business for as long as she has and born into the business basically,
Hmm.
she still seems to be pretty down to earth and just, herself and um I don't know. I just think she's cool. I'd
She
love to
is
hang out.
cool. Well, we tried. There was rumors she was going to show up to our conference, and
Mhm.
unfortunately, due to filming schedules. She wasn't able to show up to the conference when we honored Tony Curtis, but it would have been kind of cool to
That
meet
would have
her
been awesome.
at that time. I mean, as well, Tony Curtis was one of my heroes. I grew up watching everything he was in, and
Mhm.
so just meeting him in particular to me was like, wow, it just blew me away. And I got to buy Tony Curtis a drink, and he gave me a nice big ass hug. He was strong. Let
Yeah.
me tell you something. He really,
But
really was.
and then
Um,
he hang out with the kids. Our girls were both there. They were smaller, and some of the people that were working with us on the conference, they had their kids there, and
yeah,
I remember them standing in a circle, like a ring around the rosy type circle with Tony Curtis.
yeah, he was having a really good time.
He asked all the kids questions about themselves and
Yeah,
what they want when they grow up, and it was just, oh, I mean,
that was a
I
great. It was a great experience.
I'll never forget it. Yeah,
Yeah, great experience. Let's get back to the movie because
yeah.
we're getting sidetracked. We're remembering. What do you call it? Reminiscing. We were reminiscing, but reminiscing is okay. It's a Sunday.
Mhm.
This movie in itself, Everything Everywhere All at Once, is divided. And I'm not giving anything away. We're just going to give you a little bit of tidbit here and there, just to kind of a little bit of stuff to kind of get you to understand it. But it is important to know that it's been divided into three parts. Part one, we find Evelyn Wang, who is Michelle Yeoh. She's the Chinese American woman who runs a struggling laundromat with her husband, Waymond, Waymond. So I'm not messing anything up. That's Ki Hu Kwan, and the business is being audited by the IRS. The IRS auditor is Jamie Lee Curtis,
Mhm.
and Stephanie Hsu is her daughter. Um,
Is Michelle Yeoh's daughter,
Michelle Yeoh's daughter. I'm sorry. Yeah,
right?
Michelle Yeoh's daughter. It's caused rising tensions on the eve of the Chinese New Year, and her father Gong Gong, who is James Hong,
Hmm.
just arrived from China and is living with them. And she's got a very complicated relationship with her father, and you see that through actually all the dimensions,
Yeah, yeah.
which is
It really was
yeah,
not. It was never in any of them that they showed that they were kind of good. It was, yeah,
yeah, which is
complicated.
unfortunate. I mean, at least you think her in all these different dimensions she ends up traveling through. She would at least find one where everything was kind of cool. I wonder if the guys that wrote it and directed it, maybe they had some daddy issues.
Maybe,
Played them out in here.
maybe.
Well, as she sorts out the receipts on the dining room table before the IRS appointment, she does not notice Wayman's attempt to serve her divorce papers. Her daughter Joy, which is Stephanie Hsu, and her girlfriend Becky Medell arrive, and as Joy is meant to help breach any language differences at the IRS meeting, Evelyn is still struggling to accept her daughter's lesbianism and is reluctant to introduce Becky to Gong Gong.
Hmm.
For obvious reasons, the generation gap within that comes some stipulations. It's still very difficult for some people to come out in this day and age, especially to the older generations that really don't understand it. Um, so anyway, he comes down the stairs in the laundromat while she's dealing with the customer. Evelyn introduces Becky as Joey's good friend, causing them to storm out. So part one, I think it really delves into um,
The
the
dysfunction.
dynamics of a very dysfunctional family.
Mhm. Yeah, it's because they have to set it up. Obviously, they have to kind of set up all the relationships. I personally found it a little hard to get into. I was kind of like, okay, what is this going to do anything soon? Like, are we going anywhere with this? Because it's, um, you know, seeing there wasn't really one good relationship. Well, I guess the Joy, the daughter, and the father, Waymond, they have a good relationship. So at least there's that one. But it's hard, you go through the whole part one, and it's just dysfunction and yelling and negativity and screaming, and it was hard to get into. But you are rewarded with the rest of the movie. So don't give up. keep watching. It is a great movie. I personally, I think it was good for us to see it at home and not in the theater, because I know there was a few times we had to stop it and go, okay, what was that just happened? And we have to rewind it. And, so at least if you're at home, and you can do that, to help understand it more. But
Yeah, I agree with that. And you watch these individuals throughout. You see a very dysfunctional society in general, basically. I mean, it
mm-hmm,
shows dysfunction in every aspect of it, and it kind of we can relate to that in certain perspectives. I
mm-hmm.
think not
It's
it,
a lot.
especially me as a cop. I mean, cops. When unfortunately, when I say this, cops see the worst people in life, and they see people at their worst, and then
Mm-hmm,
we see the best people at their worst. 95% of the time.
yeah.
So you see dysfunction around you on a daily basis as a cop, like
Mm-hmm,
this. So it kind of reminded me of that, of the realities of what society hides behind a closed door.
yeah.
From
Yeah.
that perspective, a lot of people don't understand what's going on behind a closed door. But once you start seeing this, and it's as you progress, I think in part one, what you see is them show up to the IRS building, and while they're drawing up, and I'm not going to give it all away, but while they're going up in the elevator, Wayman's personality kind of changes, and he's briefly taken over by a version of himself from the Alpha universe.
Mm-hmm,
And upon being connected to a headset, Evelyn then sees an overview of important moments from her life. And that's where you kind of see the dysfunction within her own family. And she kind of understands it, including like her father's disappointment at having a daughter.
mm-hmm.
Um, it I don't know, and forgive me for not knowing this. I probably should have checked it before we did this. Um, I think that at certain points in time, China had restrictions on you could only have one kid.
Yeah.
So if you got
Mm-hmm,
a daughter, you couldn't try for a boy. If you got a boy and you wanted a daughter, you couldn't try for the daughter.
mm-hmm.
You got one kid. And I
Yeah.
think this might have been the situation with regard to this. And he was disappointed in getting a daughter, and he would rather have had, uh, a boy, I
Mm-hmm,
guess. Um, but to Wayman, he explains that every decision creates a new parallel universe, and that they may all be in danger, and gives her a list of instructions on the back of on the back of the divorce papers, actually.
mm-hmm.
And then sitting down with the IRS inspector, Deidre, I can't even pronounce Deidre's last name, Bo Bobirda, who is
I
Jamie Lee Curtis.
don't remember hearing it, so
Yeah, it's Jamie Lee Curtis, and yeah, her makeup is.
I mean, if you didn't know it was Jamie Lee Curtis, it might be kind of hard to see it.
Yeah,
It it was yeah, she was really made up.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
big time, and it's something that you would think of every by being called down to the IRS office, you would think that every one of them look like this and sound like this and are snotty and mean and you
Right.
know slamming and like here that they're getting the Wangs are getting scolded by their stacks of paper receipts and the tax deducted items and what they could deduct and what they can't deduct, and you shouldn't have
Mm-hmm.
taken this and you shouldn't have taken that, and it's kind of a she kind of drifts off, and I think all of a sudden she kind of swaps her shoes onto the opposite feet, and which is weird, and imagines herself in the janitor closet, and then clicks this green button on her headset, and then all of a sudden things start happening, and this is where you start understanding that she's now multiverse jumping,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
and
it was hard to grasp for for a few minutes. It's like, wait, what is happening here? But yeah, it and the what they have in the movie that makes people jump to the different multiverses is just bizarre stuff. Wouldn't have thought of, but clever.
well, these guys, the Daniel brothers, as they're called, really, like I said earlier, they've got some bizarre concepts in their head. But in this particular case, compared to the movie that I saw, Swiss Army Man, this movie blows that out of the water.
Does it
But at the same time, I think that that movie set a precedence for a
for them?
little bit of this movie.
Yeah, and kind of shows probably what they're. what they are and how what kind of filmmakers they are. So
Exactly.
yeah,
And you know, it's you know, it's really, and again, we'll talk about this here in a few minutes again, but um, it is. I think it's an intricate. Let me see if I can form my words correctly. It's an interesting perspective to the fact that these multiverses really have the opportunity to actually exist. That each one of us may be a doppelganger in another life that's doing something different, but has a different skill than we have in this life.
right.
And the whole concept is, and I'm not giving this away because it's in the description. The concept is that we can literally pull from those other multiverse people that we are, certain
Identities.
identities, we
Mhm.
can pull on those to help us in this universe if we do it correctly.
Yeah,
Which I mean, wow. Speaking
that'd be
of
great.
an Yeah, speaking of an interdisciplinary approach to life,
Hmm.
you know, that would be fantastic. You kind of go, well, in this particular case, you know, if you're getting mugged, what do you want to do? You call on your kung fu side, you
Hmm.
know, and you kick their ass, and then, you know, you go back to you, borrow from there.
Wow. I wonder how you get in touch with the other yous. Hmm.
Well, you have a little green button like she did, see? Put your feet on backwards or put your shoes on
Somehow,
backwards.
in reality, I don't think it's that easy, but that would be
No,
cool
but
to figure out.
yeah, think of the concept. Let's say, hey, Diane, you want to have a nice French dinner tonight? I will take the French chef of me and cook up a nice dinner, and then we will sit down and have a French dinner without being in France.
Well, can we just go to France instead?
Okay.
Okay.
Oui, oui.
I mean, if you can jump to a multiverse, it might as well be, the
Well, it might be
country.
cheaper.
Yeah.
Cheaper to jump to the multiverse than it would be to fly to France and get a
Hmm.
hotel. And in part one, what we do is we find out that Deidre actually has a little bit of a heart. She allows them another chance to turn the receipts in again by like 6 p.m. And it it kind of takes off from there.
Hmm.
And you see that maybe she's not as bad as she thinks she is up until you know. See, I don't want to give too much away.
I know it's so hard for us to do these movie reviews and not have any spoilers.
So I'll give a disclaimer. If you have not seen the movie yet, then I would say that you could probably stop this and fast forward just a little bit, or um, go watch the movie and come back and
Then,
listen to this, maybe. But then we're defeating the purpose here. So,
mhm.
well, basically, what happens is Waymond kind of his alter ego from the Alpha kind of returns, and he has to fight off a bunch of security guards after Michelle Yeoh punches Jamie Lee Curtis in the face. And so they go to have security guards go to arrest her, and all of a sudden, Huy Quan is a Jackie Chan.
Yeah, I mean, he really did. For a second, I was like, wait a minute, did Jackie Chan show up? Because I mean, he really he embodied that. It was
Yeah,
crazy.
it's pretty
You weren't.
slick.
Yeah, it was
It is
crazy.
pretty, yeah. And you know, it is when he shows up, he brings her back into the break. He explains they're being chased by Jobu Tupaki, and whose mind was invaded and splintered, I guess, exploded and splintered after being pushed too hard by Alpha Evelyn, whoever that is. Now she can verse, jump, and manipulate matter at will. And she's become basically pure chaos and evil. So that's
And
who they're running from during the whole movie.
Alpha Evelyn, you said whoever that is, Alpha Evelyn would be Evelyn from the Alpha multiverse.
Yes, 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 yes. Oh yeah, Evelyn. Yes, duh. One of those days.
A lot to the movie. There's a lot.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting because when you start understanding that they get to you know, jump from multiverse to multiverse, I think it is. I think it's unique the
Hmm.
way that they have directed this movie, they wrote this movie, they pulled this movie together. And as they start jumping from multiverse to multiverse, even in part all through the whole thing, part one, part two, and part three, the
Hmm.
interesting fact and the tidbit is, and I'm going to give this away. I'm sorry. You can fast forward here in a second if you want to. I'll tell you right now to do that if you don't want to know. The guys that did the CGI and all of the FX in this movie, there's 9 people that did it, and they are all self-taught. So
Yeah.
what you see in the movie and all the FX and the CGI and everything that you see in the movie is done brilliantly,
Yes.
and they're all self-taught by watching YouTube videos, for the, like,
That,
6 months before they did it.
that is insane. That isn't because I'm sorry, they were not nominated. They were
No,
not
they
nominated
should have been.
for special effects.
Yep, yep.
I the only reason they weren't, I could guarantee, is because that news came out about they were self-taught through YouTube and they didn't go the regular way, and people
I'm
don't like it.
guessing. Yeah,
And
I
I
agree with you.
snubbed because of it. And I'm telling you, they should have not only been nominated, they should win it. The special effects are beyond insane.
If I would not have known that, if I would not have understood that, if I would not have, um, come across that, I never would have known that they taught themselves on YouTube.
Nope. It's phenomenal what they did with
Yeah.
this movie. And it's sad that they were snubbed, but there you go. Politics is everywhere.
Politics is, yeah, exactly. I think that they should have been included in it, especially from that perspective. In fact, when we were listening to the Oscar nominations, I mean, there's numerous Oscar nominations for this movie. I think they have 11 of them.
Yeah.
But one of them is not FX. One of them is not special effects. Um,
Sad. Very
yeah, which
sad.
is bad, which is sad and bad.
Hmm.
But the everything else that they're nominated for, they absolutely deserve.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think when we were talking earlier about some of these other movies and who deserves an Oscar and who doesn't deserve an Oscar, this year is very, very tight.
Is very in fact the supporting actress category, Stephanie Hsu and Jamie Lee Curtis are both up for best supporting actress. And I I hope they don't cancel each other out because I wouldn't be able to choose between them. And I love Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah,
Stephanie Hsu, I mean, throughout the movie, I was just like, gosh, she needs to win this. She needs to
yeah.
win. This is
Well, and
she did a
realistically, whoops,
job.
yes, and realistically, I know that Michelle Yeoh won the Golden Globe for Best Actor, and
Yeah,
he was the first Asian actor to win that, and
actress.
actress to win that, and she well deserved. I mean, we watched her for years.
Yeah.
We've watched Michelle Yeoh, I've always I'm friends with her on Facebook actually.
Hmm.
I've always followed her. I respect her for what she does for the craft, and she got into martial arts in the movies to portray their culture and martial arts as being a part of their culture, not just a kick-ass kung fu movie.
Right.
She got into it to literally teach the world that martial arts are part of our lives, whether we think so or not,
Right.
and is part of our life in such a way that it becomes a culture within ourselves.
Hmm.
And she does an outstanding job in this instance as well by showing
Hmm.
that it wasn't overly done. And I think the martial arts that she ends up with within this show, because obviously you have to know that it's Michelle Yeoh.
Correct.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and yeah, it's interesting because the way she portrays again everything and how she's come about it, I'm very impressed with and if she won this Oscar, it wouldn't break my heart.
No, I think she
I think
really
she
deserves.
deserves it.
Absolutely.
And realistically, it's because she had to play like 9 different characters
Yeah.
within herself and keep track of those 9 different characters,
Mhm.
which is, like crazy.
And
Let's get on to part 2 real quick.
she's how old?
Michelle Yeoh is 60 years old.
Oh.
But
Yeah.
when we watched her in the interview on CBS Sunday Morning a few weekends ago, um, the guy that interviewed her was at her house, and she was there stretching.
Yeah.
Showed him her stretching routine
But she does every day.
every
Yeah.
day, and it was like, holy crap for a 60-year-old.
She,
Yeah, I try to stretch to get out of bed, and I have to call for help.
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, she deserves what she's going to get here. And like I said, we've said this in some of the other movies, and honestly, it's just a tight race.
Yeah. And
Um,
she's up against Anna de Armas for Blonde, and boy, I don't know. I would want either one of them to win. So
and Anna, as we said earlier in our, if you haven't watched it, go back and watch our review on Blonde. But Anna de Armas embodies Marilyn Monroe. I mean, embodies her like
yeah,
you would think you were watching Marilyn Monroe.
yeah. So
It's
it's gonna be
crazy.
be a crazy. It's gonna be crazy to see who wins.
So part one was everything. Part two is everywhere. So Evelyn's mind ends up splintering across the universe, and she witnesses many of the bizarre universes. One where she spins signs for a living, one where she has hot dog for fingers, which is crazy. She's dating Deidre, who is Jamie Lee Curtis, in that particular one, and they all have hot dog fingers, which maybe the Daniels were smoking a little something.
That's kind of what I was wondering. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And then one where where a fellow Teppanyaki chef is controlled by a raccoon, reminiscent of that cartoon Ratatouille.
Ratatouille.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
reminiscent of Ratatouille. So you kind of see that. Jobu once again finds Evelyn. Jobu's the evil one. Finds Evelyn and explains that she's not trying to kill her. Instead, she created the everything bagel to destroy herself because she's tired of never being present in any one universe. She merely wanted to, like someone to accompany her into the unknown. Evelyn stares into the bagel and accepts Jobu's nihilistic view that nothing matters, and she begins to be cruel and uncaring in other universes, including using her loved ones, disregarding her responsibilities. She even stabs Wayman. I mean, there's just so many things that goes on. Now, keep in mind that all these things that we're telling you, they change throughout the movie,
Yeah.
especially when they change universes. Although everything always comes back to the one that originated.
Mm-hmm.
Everything starts coming back to the one that originated. So, in in this particular one, this part two, basically, there's a lot of things that come about where she starts realizing, like things like every universe. I got this out of this because it reminded me so much because of my own dysfunctional family. Not us, not you and I, but the one that I grew up with.
Yeah.
But she kind of takes note that in every universe, Waymond actually, even when she hurts him, he always defends her. He cleans up after her. He takes care of her. He's always there for her no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of see that you reflect back to the divorce papers,
Mm-hmm.
I think, and you kind of go, why is he going to do? Trying to get the divorce papers, but then you can really see where the 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 I guess how the family was trying to survive. They
Yeah.
ended up with a laundromat. I mean, it's like an old cliche from the Asian community.
Mm-hmm.
You end up running a laundromat, and is that your life?
Right.
Does that make you
Well,
happy? Your nickel and dime and everything. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Ki Kwan was he was he an inventor in that movie? In this movie, I don't remember.
I feel like he had some things that he wanted. Yeah, that he was always trying new things, and they
Always
never
trying,
did.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that was part of the pressure in the marriage that he was always,
yeah,
but he always so optimistic too, and she
yeah.
never took that. she went to the pessimist side. He was always optimistic about everything, and it drove her crazy.
And I think what I recognized was also the pessimism came from her father
Yeah.
and the view from her father, and then the fact that she had to take her father in, and it looks like the business is failing, and now the IRS is coming after them. That further makes her into a failure, which in her
Mhm.
father's eyes is going to just compound upon itself to continue to be looked at as a failure.
Yeah. And
It,
that
it
the daughter he never wanted.
yeah, and the daughter he never wanted. That's what I, at least that's what I got out of it.
I get that too. But
And
I think she goes through all these multiverses too, that and she things take place in each multiverse for her that show her how she either screwed something up in the original multiverse,
yeah,
or a way to fix something in the original multiverse so that she can, and that goes back to every decision you make creates another parallel universe.
yeah,
She
which I think,
takes a little
yeah,
bit from to fix the one that she's in.
yeah, and I think that the that kind of gives us something to think about, to ponder. That actions have consequences, and maybe the actions and the consequences don't just affect us in this universe. It may affect us way down the line, or it may affect us. Who knows? If the I know I and you believe in other, I won't say realms, but I believe in the other side.
Mhm.
I believe in the in between. I believe in the opportunity that there's a veil there that we go to. So, you and I both know, and we've had conversations on the show where we know that we can, when we die, and you can, those out here are watching and listening, this is our perspective. When you die, that you have the opportunity to pick your next life, and when you pick that next life, you carry some things from your past with you, and I think
Mhm.
it kind of reflects a little bit on that through this movie, as in,
Yeah.
I think that's why the mind splintering, and you, in this universe, you can be this, in this universe, you can be that. So instead of saying, we're going to die and I want to come back as a, um kung fu master in the next life, you can reach across the dimension and
Mhm.
pull from that which is inexistent right now. So your next life is actually
Happen.
coexistent with you in the
Right.
present, which
Right.
I've actually had some conversations with some people through the podcast
Mhm.
where they have brought that to my attention prior to this movie, where they
Mhm.
said there are multi dimensions with us in each one of them, that we do something different. So we exist in all of them at the same time. And that might be where I think this is approaching it from.
That wow, that's deep.
Yeah, I
I,
guess.
I'll be thinking about that the rest of the day.
It's interesting because when you see all this, it's consequences for actions. I think have a deeper meaning within this movie, and even Ki Hu Kwan, he Waymond, he explains that his optimism is not naive, but is rather a conscious choice to be kind.
Mhm.
And that she starts recognizing that. She starts recognizing, oh well, maybe I need to be kind, because she is reflecting what her father. It goes back to, goes back to so many things. Intergenerational trauma.
Yeah.
What you see here is intergenerational trauma. She's carrying the load of her father's guilt of not having a son through her life, and being a failure from the beginning, from the time she was born, because
Mhm.
she wasn't a boy. She
Mhm.
wasn't born a boy when he wanted a boy so much. So everything and anything she ever did was never, ever good enough. So
Mhm.
the negative aspects of her life continue to kind of blossom from that.
Well, and she carries it. She carries that whole shame, guilt, whatever you want to call it, of you're never good enough, and she carries it right down to her own daughter.
Exactly.
Does
It intergenerational trauma. It brings it all the way down. And which in turn says, well, my marriage is not good enough, my business is not good enough, my daughter's not good enough, my husband's not good enough. And I think this it gives her time to reflect upon all of this. Now, if in reality that's these multi universes are what presented that, or whether or not she was just doing all this in her own mind. That's something for each one of us to, when we watch the movie, to kind of decide whether or not this was all in her mind or whether or not it actually is a possibility, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's that the movie was so well done that it's never really settled. You know, it's kind of us to take with us and decide
Yeah.
what it was really all about.
No, I mean, and there are some things, like I said, a disclaimer, we're giving away some things. Evelyn does have the opportunity to confront Gong Gong, her dad, about his lifelong disappointment in her, and then stands up for herself against him. And he's kind of dumbfounded at first, and then kind of goes, "Well, okay then."
Hmm.
You
Almost
know,
like that, waiting for her to do her whole life.
yeah, like a closure.
Hmm.
I guess from that perspective. Um, so from I think part two kind of gives the characters to give themselves pause, and in the middle of all this fight, to be able to kind of understand that we've got the opportunity to reflect within ourselves, to change negative, um, um, what do I say, negative pathways, negative thoughts, negative practices, to
Hmm.
kind of put a stop to the intergenerational trauma,
Yeah, yeah.
that we're committing.
I don't know that it gives a recipe of how to do that, but maybe it gets everybody thinking, oh wait, maybe we do have intergenerational trauma, and maybe we need to look at that and try to fix it.
Yeah. And
Uh,
I think you're right. I think it gives us the opportunity to really think about whether or not, if it does exist, we have the opportunity to fix it.
mhm.
And again, through the podcast, this from the podcast, and those of you that are part of this family know this. Throughout this podcast, I actually have several episodes that are about intergenerational trauma and how it can affect you and how you bring things back. It in intergenerational trauma. Just so you have a better understanding of it, is that we bring with us the negative and the positive from our parents, and they bring with them the negative and positive from their parents. And then the same thing, it goes back to grandparents, great grandparents, great great grandparents. And each time that it comes down the line, it is emphasized, and certain aspects of that trauma are emphasized through each generation. So the one that we're in right now is compounded on itself over numerous generations.
Yeah.
And the only way to break that intergenerational trauma is to recognize it and then take the opportunity to stand up to it, like she does in part two,
Yep.
and correct it so that it doesn't continue with your kids, so that, or your husband, your spouse, so that you can move forward in a positive way and allow the intergenerational trauma and all the negative aspects of it to go away.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Um, part three. Part three is all at once. So you have everything, everywhere, all at once. Part three, we're back in the tax universe, the original one we came to in the first place. The family dynamics are noticeably improved as they prepare to go back to the IRS office because they did have another chance. Evelyn and Wayman uh, kiss in the lobby in what is clearly their first romantic moment in a really long time. And I think that, from that perspective, coming over from part two, you're seeing that she allowed some of that negativity to kind of disperse, had a better understanding of why
Mhm.
Wayman was the way Wayman is. And it gives her it opens her eyes, basically, I think, opens her eyes. And then, of course, Deidre seems impressed by the work that they did and explains that there's still more to do. They're not out of the woods. And, it kind of, even though they get to this particular point in part three is a little bit shorter than part one and two. So it's not your typical, if you go to a play and you see it in two acts, you got one full act, one second full act, or a three part. You have one full, full one, two, and three acts. I think part three is a little bit shorter, but I think it kind of wraps everything up, and you see everybody evolving into a nice,
Mhm.
understanding
Yeah.
of each other and how the world's supposed to work and how we work within it. And I think it gives us reflection. They allowed them to take that intergenerational trauma.
Hmm.
And in my opinion, and you guys go watch the movie yourself, but in my opinion, I think it gave them opportunity to, you see that they say, hey, we see what we're doing, let's fix this.
Now, do you think all the characters kind of realize that? I only got that maybe she and Joy, um, maybe Wayman. I
I
don't
think
know.
Wayman did, yeah, because Wayman, they decided not to get a divorce. And that's why they kissed in the third thing, because she understood him as well. And even Deidre, instead of the, I mean, in the beginning and in the middle, you see Deidre as a nasty, spiteful, vengeful, mean ass bitch,
Mm-hmm.
and by,
I think that all the characters realized about all the multiverse. Were they all in on it at the end? I thought maybe there were some that just couldn't really understand why things had changed, but things had changed, and
well, I agree with that. I don't think everybody understood the multiverse from
right,
from
right.
their perspective, from Wayman's perspective. Even Wayman didn't understand it.
That's what I was going to say. I didn't think that
No,
he
no,
kind
but I'm saying, but what I'm saying is, in the end, they all were able to stop and reflect and pause and say, we don't want to be the people we used to be.
of.
For
Hmm.
whatever reason that came through this whole journey, I believe
Hmm.
they said, you know, we're not going to be that. I mean, I won't give the complete end away because I want everybody to be kind of satisfied with the ending. But in my opinion, I think they got some things resolved to a point where they can move forward. All of them move forward in a very positive way and change their life in a positive way to show that yes, there are consequences for actions, but we can take
Right.
charge of our own and we can make the change so that those consequences don't take place,
Hmm.
kind of a thing,
Yeah.
in a good way, in a good way from my perspective.
I
And
it gives everybody, I think, it gives all of us that see the movie a little bit of hope that it's never too late to make changes. Once you figure out why you need to make these changes, I think it's just showing all of us that it's possible.
well, and I also think it talks. I think it teaches us the value of those people within our lives that although we don't recognize what contribution they make to our lives and our relationship, that we need
Hmm.
to take the moment and stop and think that yes, I am grateful that I'm in this relationship. I am grateful for my wife, my husband, my kids, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my son, my daughter, my father, my grandfather.
Hmm.
You Yeah, I think for me, I got that out of this, that it gives you an opportunity to go, I am grateful for where I'm at right now, and I don't want to screw that up.
Yeah, I think so. I
So
agree.
my recommendation is that the people that are nominated in this film, and I think, if I remember right, I think that all the top cast are nominated. I
Hmm.
think Michelle Yeoh is nominated. Ki Hu Kwan is nominated. Which, I mean, he himself has got to be looking back on all these people that turned him down, all these
Yeah.
people that didn't think he could do something,
Yeah.
and his career went, off the rails for quite some
Hmm.
time. And he tried so hard, he's got to be sitting back going, kiss my butt.
Although he seems like nice of a guy to even do that, like
True, but yeah, but he's got to do a little bit of it at least. He may take it back, but I'm
Hmm.
sure his parents are proud too. And, Jamie Lee Curtis, obviously, and Stephanie Hsu, Hong,
Hmm.
James Hong. I forgot his
Was
name.
he nominated?
Huh?
Was he nominated?
I'm trying to think if he was nominated or not.
I'm not. I'm thinking he
Uh,
wasn't,
on that
but
particular point, forgive me, everybody. I may have to go back and check that, but I do know that Michelle Yeoh, Stephanie Hsu, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Ke Huy Quan, all of it were nominated for for their parts in the film, as well as the film itself, the direction, for writing. They were all nominated. They should have been nominated. They got screwed for the special effects and CGI.
uh,
They should have gotten for that, but they did
it,
not. Shame on
yeah,
them. Shame, shame, shame.
It's crazy that they weren't.
Yeah, it's crazy. Speaking of change and speaking of things that are going well, first of all, thank you very much for joining us this Sunday and helping us to review this film. And we
Go
hope that
see
you
it.
enjoyed it. Go see
If you
it.
haven't seen it, see it. It's amazing.
It is a wonderful film. Be prepared. It's a little bizarre, but you got to look deep inside some of these movies sometimes. But yes, you will enjoy it. It will not, it will be worth your while. And I think that when you see that, you'll understand why they got nominated for so many things that they got nominated for.
Yep.
On another note, there are some changes coming down the pike for One More Thing Before You Go. As you know, we are evolving like any good podcast or entertainment. Creative aspect of entertainment needs to be brought about, and we're evolving. So you're going to see a little bit more tightened description. We're still going to be talking the same stuff, but a little more expanded. We're going to go a little more in depth on so many things, and you will see a new description. But it is the same podcast. It is us. It is the same people. It is Michael. It is Diane. It is the opinion, the experiencers. It is the experts. We're going to be talking about the same things we're talking now, but a little more in depth and from a different perspective. So keep in mind that's coming about, and there'll be some new artwork coming up pretty soon to kind of reflect that change. So after 256 episodes that we're very proud of, we are going to kind of evolve a little bit, grow a little bit, so that we can bring you better content, better experts, better experiences, a wider variety of content for you to hopefully enjoy, to be educated, inspired, and motivated. And we look forward to you continuing to be part of the One More Thing Before You Go family. I want to thank you very much. I want to thank you very much for being part of this family for as long as you have. Please follow us on Instagram at Before You Go Podcast, on Twitter at Before You Go Pod. We're on Facebook, and you can look for us at the Before You Go Podcast.shop. Always have to think about that one.
I know.
And support us, please, and that will continue to help us to bring you this program. So, one more thing before you go. Have a great day. Have a great week, and thank you for listening.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to this episode of One More Thing Before You Go. Check out our website at beforeyougopodcast.com. You can find us as well as subscribe to the program and rate us on your favorite podcast listening platform.